All right. Recording. You doing this?
Yes, I guess we
You
are.
doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
This thing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi,
Who are you?
I'm Jill.
I'm Nick. And we're
Hipstrings.
Hipstrings. Oh, that's corny.
Yeah.
You gonna knit during the time?
Yeah, that's what podcasters do.
I don't even have my pen. Okay.
Well,
fine.
get yourself some knitting
I
next
will
time.
pretend to knit.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, so you have this list thing.
Yeah, but first we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves.
Right.
Because people might not know us or
Yeah.
what we do.
So,
what Hipstrings is.
well, do you want to talk about what Hipstrings is first?
Now let's start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. Okay. So, how many years have we been together?
Almost 18.
Almost 18. Oh, that's right. We've got our half-life this year.
Yeah.
So, back when we first met, about 18 years ago, I had no clue that Jill did anything fibery. And the only exposure I had was my grandmother, who used to knit us slippers every Christmas. And then she passed away. And there was nobody to take up the tradition. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And I learned how to knit, specifically to make slippers for everybody in the family for Christmas. And it took me 10 years to actually get to that point of doing it. But it made it so that I learned how to knit, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And you came along and you were like, hey, by the way, I crochet. That's cool. And you said, teach me how to knit. And I said, no, because knitting's a men's activity. No women allowed.
Well, this is when I started being a stay-at-home mom.
Yes, that's true too.
So I had recently graduated with my PhD, and then like 2 weeks later had a baby. And so I decided I wanted to stay at home, raise kids, at least while they're young. And being at home drove me crazy because there was no proof that I had actually accomplished anything at the end of the day.
Kids were alive still.
Yeah, it's not much. So I picked up crochet, but a friend got me into Ravelry, and all the cool kids knit. So I tried to get Nick to teach me how to knit, and he said no.
Yeah, because it's for men. That's what the book that taught me knitting with balls. It taught me knitting is men's activity, and women not allowed. Crochet is women's. I still don't know how to crochet, but eventually I taught you.
Yes.
As you can see, because she's doing it, right?
I had to promise him a lifetime of hand knit socks.
Awesome.
And since he has size 13 feet, that's quite a promise.
That's why I didn't do it. But I've knit you socks.
Yes. So I learned how to knit. And then we went to our first Maryland sheep and wool. And I was trying to find something to get Nick to do more in the fiber arts.
Which, incidentally, Maryland Sheep and Wool was literally 10 minutes from where I grew up, and I had no clue.
So we went to Maryland sheep and wool, and I decided that you should learn how to spin. Or at least somebody I knew should learn how to spin, but not me. Because I was busy knitting and crocheting. But that didn't work out. Because we bought a drop spindle, and we bought fiber, and we bought clouds.
It worked out eventually, but not
Eventually,
not,
not the way it was supposed to.
not the way you planned.
Not the way I planned at all.
Well, around this time, you also discovered your nickel allergy to dyes, right?
Yes, and I started hand dyeing for myself.
To compensate for that.
Yes. But then this drop spindle and this fiber was sitting around the house and nobody was doing anything with it. So I was like, okay, I'll do something with it. And I taught myself how to spin.
I hate drop spindles.
But I didn't like drop spindles.
You too?
Mm-mm.
That's
Still
why we
can't
need to make a
stand
better one.
Yes.
That comes later.
But I really like working with cotton. And especially crochet with cotton. And so I wanted to learn how to spin cotton. And so I got a kit, started learning how to spin cotton on a Tockley, and really loved it, really got obsessed. But I was sad because there were all these pretty turned wood spindles, support spindles out in the marketplace, but there were not pretty Tockleys. And so I was kind of sad about that.
And that was the same time that Tech Shop opened around Pittsburgh. And we have a policy in our family. If we're going to spend $1,000 on something like a membership to Tech Shop, we got to make money with it.
Which is how we became wedding photographers for 7 years.
Yeah. I wanted that fancy digital camera. So back to Tech Shop.
Tech shop. So we took a class on how to use a laser cutter because that's the kind of dates we have. And we came home from it. Okay, what can we do with this?
Any date that involves burning things with a laser, I don't think you can make fun of it. I think that's just plain awesome.
It is, but it's not for everybody.
No.
I don't know. And so I was looking up materials, information, and stuff. So, another little background information. I have a PhD in biology, and you...
A PhD in electrical engineering.
So this whole science thing, kind of a big deal to us. And so I was looking up info. I was like, okay, we can cut acrylic with a laser, and it's denser than the densest woods. So that would be really good. Put all the weight in the world. And then we can take a carbon fiber shaft, which is really light, but also really stiff, and use that so that when you're spinning it, all the energy goes into the momentum of the whirl. Should work out pretty well. So I went and sent Nick off to Tech Shop, and he brought me back some prototypes, put them on a shaft, tested them, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are so awesome. And I went
Do we still have our first ones?
Somewhere.
We made some out of wood too, and they weren't as nice.
So I showed off friends on Ravelry, and they were like, can we buy one? I was like, yeah. So that's when I started making spindles, almost 4 years ago. And then, so Hipstrings got started with the spindles. And then it became, well, let's make other pretty tools that spinners could use. And we started making the control cards, and we ended up making the needle gauges. And then I was like, well, I should sell the fiber that goes, yes. Nick will be right back.
Okay. And I'm back.
So because we had the spindles, then I was like, oh, well, we should sell the fiber that goes with the spindles. And so I started selling luxury fibers and hand-dyed cotton and all that stuff. And it's kind of grown. And
Just a little.
So,
So much we had to move out of our basement.
yeah. So we moved into our own commercial space.
Which, incidentally, we're in our basement right now.
Yeah. Last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a studio that we work mostly out of. It has all the pretty fluff in it. And we open it up once a week for BYOB Craft, and once a month the first Saturday for people to come and visit.
Check out our website for details on times.
And for other special occasions.
Yeah. Like when your friend Ken is coming.
Yes. So my dear friend Ken from the Homestead Hobbyist is stopping by on his way back from Maryland Sheep and Wool, and he'll have a trunk show at the studio on Tuesday, May 9th from 6 to 9. And you want to buy his fluff.
But enough about his fluff.
Yes.
What fluff do we have?
So kind of our specialty is custom blends. So kind of putting things together, fibers together in a way that makes them better than their component parts.
Synergy. Sorry,
Stop with your
I'm in the corporate world. I have to spit this stuff out every now and then.
And we do stuff like thematic sampler boxes, which tell a story through fiber. And now we even have our own custom yarn, which is what I am working with right now. It's our Bowie DK. It's a blend of BFL, Shetland, and Manx Lawton, so 3 British breeds. And it is just a wonderful workhorse wool that it's bouncy, it's durable, and it does anything you throw at it.
It's next to Skin Soft.
Yeah. So what have you been up to? So we're going to move into our next segment, which is Warped, Twisted, and Loopy. We get a chance to talk about what we're working on, because
It's the first time we're doing this. You need to explain Warped, Twisted, and Loopy, because that covers 3 segments.
I was going to get into that.
Sorry.
So we dabble in quite a wide range of the fiber arts. So Warped is for weaving. So we're kind of beginner weavers. We've been weaving for about a year. Twisted would be spinning. So we both spin. And loopy would be your knitting and crochet. So I knit and crochet, Nick just knits. So we're just going to share a little bit of what we're working on because we always have a whole bunch of things that we're doing and we don't want to bore you to death. So I'm going to...
We got to have things for other podcasts because I don't finish things quite as quickly as you do.
Well, it's not your full-time job yet.
So you asked me what I was doing.
Yes, so what have you been up to?
So recently I was spinning a... You're going to have to remind me what was actually in this, because this was a fiber that you and Ken were both experimenting with.
Yes,
right?
we did. We designed it for a spin-along.
Yeah.
And it's Polworth, tussa silk, and a touch of flax.
And this was actually one of Ken's colorways at Homestead Hobbyist. And I spun it up. This unfortunately has dyes that Jill's allergic to, so she couldn't spin it up. But I spun it up. What do I do? Show it?
Yeah.
That's good?
Yeah.
I think it looks beautiful. I have no idea what I'm going to make with it, but it is very, very soft. It's fluffy. It is. It's my first yarn that I like, and I actually want to knit something for myself with. But
So what'd you spin it on?
I spun it on a sidekick.
Okay.
And because that's my wheel. I'm an engineer, right? So I like the fact that it transforms. I also loved Transformers as a kid, so it's my little Ultra Magnus because of the coloring. Nobody's going to get that, but yeah. So I spun it on my sidekick, and
how'd you ply it?
oh yeah, I learned how to do chain ply. And I was super excited about learning that because it seemed like magic where I could take a single and go into a 3-ply without having to have 3 bobbins or all that whole mess. And I was able to pseudo teach it to somebody when I went to Albuquerque and just hung out at a yarn shop. The explanation I gave was, if you've crocheted, it's like crocheting with your single and then letting it spin up on itself as it's going in. He seemed to understand that pretty well, and that's how you sort of taught me, except I didn't understand the crochet part. But yeah, so it ended up being a 3-ply, and we have tools for measuring the weight, but I have no idea what this actually is. I'm going to guess it's close to a DK.
DK, worsted.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you?
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm knitting on. I just started this right before I left for Flyaway, and most of this progress was done on the flight back. The pattern is Trespassers William by Indie Knits, and it was a pattern that was developed for my friend Ken's yarn. So you can tell Ken and I are besties.
Is this like a Ken theme episode, even though it's our first one?
Yeah.
That's cool. I like Ken.
Okay. And so it's a large shawl, which I love. If a shawl isn't at least like 8 ounces, I don't want it. It's too tiny. I want something that's kind of more like a blanket. And so this is the black charcoal is our cobblestone color, and then this bright aqua is our Caribbean color. And I'm going to work on it like a mad woman to see whether or not I can have it done by Marilyn, which is probably crazy.
You've done crazier.
Yes.
So now for something completely un-Ken related. This is a project I started a long time ago. I'm going to pick it back up again, I think. It is what I call the manliest knitting project ever. All right, so I got this cone of Jacob's wool. I actually think it was our first Maryland sheep and wool.
Yes,
right.
That's where you fell in love with Jacob sheep.
And I fell in love with them because they are demon sheep. If you haven't seen a picture of a Jacob sheep, look it up. They are demons. They got the horns coming out of the face and the curly horns on the top. Like, that is a demon sheep. Okay, so this isn't Jacob's wool, it's demon wool, right? And then, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, it's this tiny little red yarn here, which is actually a stainless steel yarn with a wool around it by Habu. And so I'm knitting with those together. So it is steel gilded demon wool, right? Okay, stay with me. And I'm doing a pattern. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's the pattern's called Fallberry Mitts. But to me, it looks like dragon scale. So these are dragon scale bracers made from demon wool, gilded with stainless steel. And to top it off, I'll pull these out. I'm using carbon fiber needles. So I challenge anyone to come up with a more manly knitting project than this. I think maybe I need the blood on this in some case. I don't know. Maybe that'll make it manlier. So that I'm going to be picking back up at some point in time. And you got something else here.
Yeah, so this is not a complete project, but these are the first two skeins from a combo spin.
What's a combo spin?
So there was an article in Spinoff about people talking about a way to do a combo spin, which was a way to take a whole bunch of single 4-ounce braids that you get indie dyed braids or whatever, and combine them into a larger quantity for like a sweater project. And there was a whole process and number of braids. Well, I'm not very good with structure, so I said, well, that's a good idea, and I've actually used it before to make sweater quantities. So I went digging in the stash, and I don't have a lot of single 4-ounce quantities of anything, because when I usually buy 8 to 12 ounces of anything I like. So this isn't quite as chaotic. So there's a little bit of some hand-dyed rambouillet from me in here, some dyed like Falkland and rambouillet from Homestead Hobbyist. Another reason I spin with Ken's fiber a lot is because since I do have dye allergies, I've kind of figured out which dyes I'm allergic to, and I can ask him, so, does this have something bad for me? Is it evil? And he'll tell me yes.
Evil dyes.
Most of the time. Because I'm allergic to blues, and I love blues, and greens and purples, and those have blues in them. And then there's also some...
But you're not allergic to your blues and greens.
Right. So I dye with greener shades, and I don't react with those. And then there's some mystery stash in here. So about a year ago, I got a Suzy Pro alpaca used, and the person who sold it was getting out of spinning, and so she said, well, I'll pack some of my stash in it. And I was expecting, well, she's getting out of spinning, it's just going to be a couple braids.
You don't know people's stash.
Yeah. Well, I expect if you have a large enough stash, you love spinning, and you would never get out of it. So I get this box with the wheel, and it is only padded with hand-dyed fiber. And when I unpacked it all, it turned out to be 13 pounds of undyed fiber. So I went through and fondled it all, figured out what I didn't react to, kept it, and then I paid it forward. So a lot of the fiber that I couldn't play with went to other good homes. So there's some of that in here. So it's mainly Falkland and Rambouillet. It's wonderfully squishy. It'll make a great sweater yarn. And because I don't follow rules, this is a 3-ply instead of the 2-ply that the big combo spin is doing, because I like 3-ply for sweaters. And I just tore into little strips and then kind of tried to make it balanced. So I've got just a little bit more of this. And this will end up being a sweater for Nick when it's all done. Okay.
I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next is the you're going to want to talk about Inside the Studio.
Yes. So a little bit of shameless self-promotion. So if you are local to the Pittsburgh area or find yourself passing through,
or really, really are excited and want to come visit,
yes.
You don't have to be local. You can fly in from Japan. Pittsburgh's an international airport. I mean,
there's direct flights from somewhere.
Yeah. There's direct flights to Paris.
So, we're in actually Allison Park, which is in the North Hills of Pittsburgh. We're not that far from the city, just far enough.
30 minutes from just about everything. 30 minutes from the airport, 30 minutes from downtown, 30 minutes from
Anywhere
anything
that
good.
matters. And so, as we said before, we're open occasionally, but we usually are open the first Saturday of every month. But we have one exception in the month of May, because the first Saturday of May is always Maryland Sheep and Wool. So we'll be down at Maryland Sheep and Wool. If you want to come hunt us down,
Look for the T-Rex who's spinning. Or
or the Kilted Man.
Or the kilted T-Rex? No, I don't think my kit will fit on top.
We'll probably be hanging out at the Homestead Hobbyist booth, and we're also planning on making an appearance at the Podcasters Meetup, which is Saturday from 2:30 to 4. So that means that we'll have our open studio on May 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And it's Saturday the 13th, so it's perfectly good luck.
Mm-hmm. And then we're open on Thursdays from 6 to 9, as long as both of us are in town, so that one can stay home with the kids. And then we're also, as I mentioned before, we're having a special trunk show of the Homestead Hobbyist on May 9th from 6 to 9 p.m.
May's a busy month.
Yes, because we'll also be at the Waynesburg Sheep and Fiber Festival.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's the 21st and 22nd. No, it's the 20th and 21st.
It's that weekend.
Yeah, it's the following weekend. And that's kind of what's going on. We're always putting new stuff up. A whole bunch of hand-dyed cotton just went up in the show. So we do still have our Etsy shop, as well as our own website, hipstrings.com. All of the goodies are at hipstrings.com, and some of the goodies are at Etsy.
Yeah. And there's even goodies in the shop that aren't up yet online. So if you do, there is some incentive to come to the shop. You know, if you don't want to see us.
It's kind of cool.
It is cool. It's fun. It's don't be intimidated. It is in an old dilapidated warehouse, but our section is not dilapidated, and we made it nice and pretty.
Yeah, we're in the old foreman's office in the middle of the warehouse.
Yeah. So check out our website for any more information, and we have. Do you still do Facebook?
Yes. I do
Facebook,
all the time.
Instagram, Ravelry. There's a Twitter that I do. Twitter's my version of the
So show
social
Nick
media.
some love and some encouragement on Twitter.
Yeah, and maybe I'll post more. And by all means, we love talking about this stuff. We love emailing. And this is our first experiment with podcasting, so let us know in the comments or with email what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of. If you are one of those many people who've asked us to do spinning tutorial videos, this is the first step to that. This is our experiment, so that should be coming shortly. I did promise somebody at Indie Knit and Spin last year that I would have a video up before the fall, so this is that first step. All right.
Yep. Thank
Thanks
you
a
for
lot.
listening.
Bye.
Bye.